Thank you. The next question is, I'd like to start with Norman first, because you have written about compassion extensively. So is the relationship between awakening and the cultivation of compassion and love, whatever word you want to put on that too.
Well, to me, they're the same thing. Alexia gave a talk earlier about gender and so on, and she mentioned that she studied at Cal with Professor Lancaster, and I did too, around the same time. And I remember that he gave a seminar on reading the Emptiness Sutras. We were specifically reading the Diamond Sutra in Chinese. Not that I could read it, but I was trying to learn how to read it, and he was reading it with us. And I remember him saying, well, in Mahayana Buddhism, they always say that wisdom, the ability to understand the emptiness of all phenomena, wisdom always goes together with compassion. They say that. Wisdom and compassion always go together. He said, frankly, studying these sutras all this time, I don't see that. I don't see what that has to do with compassion. But I believe them when they say it, so okay. But I don't get it. I remember him saying that. And now, all these years later, it just seems to me like so obvious that it's the same thing, because if you are willing to not be mesmerized by your own smallness, however much it appears, if you're willing to recognize all the really interesting things Richard was talking about, that the reality that you are one step removed from yourself all the time, that you are not at all who you think you are, if you're willing to acknowledge all of that, then it means that everybody and everything else is you. You're not this guy over here, right? You're not that guy over there. Everything and everyone else is you. And in this very wonderful way, because if it weren't for everybody and everything else, think how lonely you would be. It wouldn't even be possible for you to be here. So naturally, you love them all. And naturally, when they fall down, you try to pick them up. And probably you end up falling down too. But that's okay, then both of you are down there together, and it's not so difficult. So yeah, I think that I was telling Gil, and I was very happy earlier when I told Gil this, that he didn't think I was crazy. Gil actually knows stuff about Buddhism because he was a scholar. I make stuff up with a little bit of knowledge that I have from sutras and stuff. But I was saying to Gil, I said, here's my outrageous idea. My outrageous idea is that actually the Buddha really taught a life of compassion and conduct. The practice is really about how we treat one another and how we love one another. That's really what it's completely about. However, and because previous to that, everybody was stuck. Who was saying? You were saying. We all thought we were stuck in our situation that we were born into. We walk down this block and then we fall off the edge, and that's it. And that's how everybody felt. But the Buddha said, no, actually, there's another possibility. You don't have to. You're not stuck with that. There's another possibility, and it's this life of transformed conduct and love.
Thank you, Norman. So given that we have about 5 minutes left, and I want to give every panelist a chance to share one last thoughts about this topic, and maybe the way I would pose the question is, given everyone that is here and what you've experienced, what you know, what you've seen, what you've studied, what would you like to leave the people in this auditorium with? And let's start with Gail at the end.
I think that the most important thing I'd like to say here on the topic of enlightenment is that enlightenment, whatever it is an ethical state or an ethical experience. That there's an equivalence of ethics and enlightenment. That, and the easiest way to describe that is that, at least in the ancient texts, the suttas, enlightenment is described as the most common description of nibbana is the destruction of greed, hate, and delusion. The most common description of the roots, the fundamental foundations, the roots out of which unethical behavior arises, is greed, hate, and delusion. As greed, hate, and delusion is diminished, it makes us more ethical, makes us less unethical. And to take that all the way to its full potential, as we move towards that full potential of really the destruction, the ending of greed, hate, and delusion, we're uprooting and eradicating the sources within us for being unethical. And without being unethical, then we can live in the world with care and attention and respect, and also with a wonderful sense of amazement that we're here and conscious.
Thank you. Richard?
Actually, as we were talking, I think it's probably correct to say that compassion is the body of wisdom. Everything has a body, right? It's important to distinguish between understanding, experience, and realization. And one of the biggest problems we have as practitioners is we tend to think when we understand we've realized. That's the first thing. So you get the idea of it, you think you've got it all. And then when you have experiences, you think you've realized as well. And that's even more common. And experiences are going to happen because if this is indeed a display, and you start playing around with the controls, the display changes and you have experiences and you think, wow, I'm getting enlightened. No, you're not. You're just playing around with the controls on the TV screen. That's what you're actually doing. And so experiences are sudden, like a flash of lightning. But realization is like the dawn, coming up slowly. And I really think it's important to realize that we have to accumulate. We have to, the Tibetans have a very nice term. They don't use the term meditation, they use the term gumpa, which basically means to become familiar with, is essentially what the term means. We have to accumulate something. And that takes time. Once you've understood what it is, then experiences become an obstacle. Because if you reify your experiences as something to follow, you're reifying the very display you want to escape. So actually experiences, it's a very nice metaphor, experiences are like saliva. It feels good in your mouth, but when you spit it out to show it to someone else, it doesn't look so nice on the floor. And it's a bit like that. So the important thing is to realize that you will have experiences as you meditate, but the best thing to do is to forget them. Because the realization is something quite different, feels totally different, and comes slowly and steadily. And once you start feeling it coming, you know you're on the path.
Purifying the mind through meditation, through that awareness of the smallness, through hanging in there, through bearing with, when you are holding back from wanting to do harm or wanting to do something that's going to hurt you or others in the present or in the future, there's a purification of mind that happens then. I think we can hold a very high idea of we should be good, we should be always nice, we shouldn't have any bad thoughts, but it's more like to know the purification process and know that that's part of the practice and that's part of what ripens us in awakening.
Thank you. And with that, I'd like to thank you, Ayananda Bodhi, Norman Fisher, Richard Dixie, and Gail Fronsell for having agreed to be part of this